To 35th District Representative Drew MacEwen. Good morning, Drew.
Good morning, Jeff.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm wonderful. Yourself?
Oh, I'm doing real well. Nice to talk with you here this morning. And what can you tell me? What's the latest? It's the 21st of June, and where are we at in the session?
Yeah, we are. We're still not done. That's the frustrating part. The good part is that progress does continue to be made. There is movement by both chambers and both sides of the aisle to get closer and meet in the middle, but just not quite there yet. And that certainly is a frustration. And as I've said all along, I don't think that we should have ever been at this point, and it creates a ton of uncertainty for state workers and also for local districts. And it's unfortunate that we continue to put folks in that situation, but we need to get this done at hand, and the struggle that we're up against. So it takes, needless to say, some time to actually, when you get to a final agreement, to write and put it into the revisor code, in the proper bill format to produce a budget that spends $40 billion. And so what we're really up against here, in order to realistically have this done before June 30th, we need to come to a deal by the end of this week to allow for the time that needs to take to get things in order and written, etc. So we are up against the clock in a big way, but I do think we are getting closer, and there's progress every day. And on another note, did have some meetings in Olympia, a couple of committee meetings. The bill that I've had going all session to delink the federal end-of-course test from a graduation requirement that's passed the House 3 times with strong bipartisan support, just literally maybe 3 or 4 no's, and but it's continuously stalled in the Senate, and so we came to an agreement on that, and we had that bill heard and passed out of the Education Committee this past week, that would basically move all the tests to 10th grade, whereas right now some of them are in 11th grade. And if an individual were to not pass, it allows a lot more time to address it instead of it being right at the end of their K-12 career. And so what would essentially happen is they would then be taking a class to address where there was deficiencies in their test, and then that would be deemed to be adequate. And I think it's while it's not the solution that I ultimately wanted, I think it's a fair compromise, and I'm hopeful that we're going to get that part of it done. And then we also had a healthcare committee meeting the other day, and that's trying to address some issues there, and had the insurance commissioner before the committee. We're seeing healthcare rates up 22% this year, and across the board, and a couple of counties that were left without any insurance options. So got one of those taken care of, that being Grace Harbor, still working on Klickitat County, but we got work to do on that as well, and those hearings were had this week as also.
One more thing on the session there. I know that the second special session ended, and the governor was saying that he wasn't going to either authorize or sign the start of a third session. Did that happen, or if he didn't, are you able to still gather, or what are the rules on that one?
Yeah, the only thing that cannot happen if you're not in session is you cannot pass anything out of a committee or off of the floor of a chamber. Nothing prevents, and this has always kind of been a bone of contention. It's somewhat optics to say that you're in special session so that it appears that there's something going on, but at the end of the day, the bulk of members are not in Olympia because they're not involved in the budget process, and so it's really about half a dozen people. And I've kind of always held the view that we don't necessarily need to call a special session to negotiate a budget. I don't. I have not checked my email this morning. I don't know if we're actually in the third session now or not. But it's irrelevant from my point of view because there's still work to be done, and we're still doing that work.
35th District Representative Drew MacEwen. Finally, the revenue forecast looked like it gave y'all a little bit more money to play with when it comes to this. Was that expected, and will this be the last time that we look towards that June forecast, do you think? Are you going to be able to do some movement on some of the projects that you were thinking about regarding that?
Yeah, so the forecast was good. I think that was largely expected. I don't think anyone had a notion that it would have a downward revision. At the end of the day, when you cut through it all, it adds, I believe, another $87 million into the forecast, which it helps, but that's not in the context of $40 billion. That's not a lot.
Right.
It pains me to say that because $87 million is a lot of money, but. As far as getting away from using these forecasts when we're stuck in these ridiculous special sessions, that's an issue that I am going to certainly be addressing. And but we got to get this thing put to bed first before we tackle that. I've thrown those proposals out there. I've gotten some feedback from some other members in both chambers, and once we get this thing done, then we'll really work on that hard and fast.
35th District Representative Drew MacEwen, always nice talking with you, and we'll check in before too long, either next week or when we get this thing all wrapped up.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.